Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the global chairman of Ogilvy Red, Carla Hendrado.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm so glad to see so many of you here today. It's our first Verge Digital Summit in this building, in the Chocolate Factory, which we moved into recently. But this is an event we've run in 40 countries around the world for over 10 years. And it's really about having colleagues, clients, partners together to exchange views and just talk about where is the digital economy taking consumers, brands, customers, and our companies. So today in New York, and via webcast to our offices around the country, we're going to be able to do this again courtesy of three very, very wonderful sponsors. So first, I want to thank the Institute of Communications Technology Management, which is CTM. You'll see their name. They're at the Marshall School of Business at USC. And I'm a member of their board, and many of the members of the board are here today. And we're so grateful to co-chairs Deborah Bothan and Bill Davidson, who supported us, and Jay Tucker, who's been the interim executive director. They did so much this year to help us plan the event and provide support. So you'll see CTM evident throughout the day. Also want to thank Rocco Fabiano and the whole team from Qualcomm Retail Solutions, who are another sponsor. They have sponsored this event, but they've also been an innovation partner of ours for 2 years, and you're going to hear a lot about some of the great technologies that they're using and developing in the retail space. And they've been kind enough to sponsor our lunch today, which is going to be up on the roof, weather permitting, but it looks good. Finally, I want to thank Spotify, who are our third sponsor. In addition to the fireside chat that you'll see in a few minutes with Jeff Levick, who's Chief Marketing and Revenue Officer, they've also been good enough to sponsor our cocktail party that is at the close of the day, around 4:30 or so. We're going to head back up to the roof, and they've provided a special musical guest, Emily King. So we're really thankful to them for all of their help and support. Huge, huge thank you to everybody in the sponsor group who made this possible. They're going to make it not only, I think, eye-opening, but fun today. And so before we get started, I'm going to say just a very few words about our theme: Devices and Desires, the Connected Life. Now, this came into our heads because it's sort of this two-pronged animal of the incredible proliferation of devices, digital devices, and also new human expectations that consumers have and people have because of the devices. And when we say device, we're not just talking about smartphones and tablets and laptops. Yes, all of those. We're also talking about the future, which is arriving now: wearable computing, ingestible computers, implanted computers, even cognitive computing platforms like IBM's Watson, which IBM Chairman and CEO Ginni Rometty has said, before too long, Watson will be able to be held in the palm of one's hand. That's pretty amazing. I don't know if we'll be able to afford it, but the power of the device is very enormous, and it's pretty much unstoppable at this point. It's ingrained in the way people behave. But just because something has been built or imagined doesn't mean people will decide to take advantage of any one device or use it exactly the way it was imagined. So the other part of our theme today is desires, and that's about understanding what drives human behavior in the connected life. Because people are still people. They have some incredible machinery in their hands or elsewhere that really change the way they interact. So we want to explore that stream and understand the impact on everything from entertainment to media to consumption to shopping, all the things the kinds of interactions that the devices allow. So we have a very full day, but we've also arranged for a couple of half-hour breaks as well as our hour lunch. That's so you can have conversations and connect with each other, which is a big point of today. So I'm just going to quickly run through our agenda for you. First on will be my good friend Deborah Bothan, who not only runs PricewaterhouseCoopers Media and Entertainment Advisory, but she's also co-chair of the CTM board, as I mentioned. She's going to interview Lucy Hood, the newly appointed president and COO of the Television Academy. There aren't too many businesses that are undergoing and facing the kind of change that TV is going through. I'm particularly thrilled to have Lucy here because she was at our inaugural Verge event 2003 here in New York. Back then she was SVP of content at News Corp, and doing some things with Fox Mobile and Verizon and content that other people weren't even thinking about yet. So she's an innovator. Following Lucy and Deborah, we're going to hear from Jeff Levick of Spotify in conversation with Amir Questlove-Thompson, who you all know from The Roots and from Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, one of the world's most interesting music producers, performers, and writers. It's a great thrill to have them here today. Then we'll take the half-hour break, the first of two, so that everybody can have some coffee and talk. After the break, we're going to stay on the entertainment theme with Doug Scott, who's president of Ogilvy Entertainment, and he has a panel of experts that he'll introduce on a theme, Shift Happens. Glad I said that right. The transformation of networks and content. And so Doug will have people from Fox, AOL, CNN, Participant TV. Then our sponsor, Qualcomm Retail Solutions, President Rocco Fabiano will come on stage with the head of mobile at Ogilvy, Martin Lange, and they're going to together share insights on mobility, the mobile shopper, cutting-edge solutions that Qualcomm Retail has been developing for some time now. As I said, we've had a partnership for a couple of years, and it's all about the apps that can actually sense who the consumer is on a very detailed data level and where they are. So Qualcomm is really developing the technology that lets brands and retailers deal with the way shoppers are behaving already now, but also the way they're going to behave for tomorrow. That's going to close out the morning. So after that, we'll go up to the roof for our Qualcomm Retail Solutions sponsored lunch, get some vitamin D, and everybody can stretch their legs and have a break. So when we come back in the afternoon, Josette Bont, who's the Chief Strategy Officer of CTM, and two of her colleagues, Andrea Vladar-Moser and Elizabeth Fife, are going to come up and share a very hot-off-the-press set of research that just was launched yesterday at the CTM board meeting. This is the first public viewing of it. Future of media, the digital home, and global media are the themes there. So we'll also be providing that to all of you by email, everyone that's registered. Following this, we're going to have some fun with wearables and data, as Brandon Berger, Chief Digital Officer at Ogilvy, is going to talk about the next new thing, the quantified self and wearable computing. We have some great guests on that panel. It's going to be Philippe Schwartz, who's president of Withings, who are a real innovator in personal data, Melissa Parrish of Forrester, and then Todd Cullen, who is Ogilvy's Chief Data Officer. Then we'll have one more 30-minute break so everyone can network and chat a little bit more. And we'll come back to welcome my good friend Rory Sutherland, who has come in from London. He's our resident expert on behavioral economics. This is where the desires part comes in. Rory is a noted TED speaker. He's also vice chairman of Ogilvy for Europe, Africa, and Middle East. And if you've never heard him speak, you have something great to look forward to, because if nothing else, it will be tremendous fun. We're going to finally wrap the day, we hope, with our chairman and CEO, Miles Young. He was meant to be here this morning to welcome you, but yesterday had to go to London for clients first, of course. But he's coming back directly so that he can wrap up the day with some of his perspective on the connected life. Then we'll go up to the rooftop for cocktails and some music with Emily King. And just to introduce Emily, since that will be later this afternoon, she's an R&B singer and songwriter. She's toured with Maroon 5 and opened for artists like Alicia Keys and Erykah Badu, and we're really honored to have her with us later today. We hope by that time your brains will be buzzing a bit with ideas and new ways to think about brands and the connected life. And just one more thing, if anybody is so moved throughout the day, if you want to tweet about any of the sessions or any of the content, we have just use Ogilvy Verge hashtag. So we'd love to hear what you have to say about the event as we go. So let's kick off. I want to first welcome to Ogilvy and Verge Deborah Bothan and Lucy Hood. Deborah has a storied career in digital media and communications, spending most of her time with media and entertainment industry clients, helping them to define their strategies to evolve profitably in the digital ecosystem, and that's a huge issue. Lucy Hood, I mentioned before, is a real innovator, had a great career in media and digital content. One of her career highlights being that she launched text voting on American Idol. Back then, it was a first in America American media. Deborah and Lucy are going to talk about the future of entertainment in a world of cord cutting where screens are teensy or mega-sized, where content is developed by creative people well beyond the usual suspects. And frankly, I think a world where I don't know if television's even going to be the term that we use in the future. So we're going to start off with a little bit of a sizzle reel that Lucy brought from the recent Emmys, and then we'll welcome Lucy and Deborah to the stage. Thank you.
Action!
Somebody wrote that for me.
The Emmy goes to...
The Emmy goes to...
And the Emmy goes to...
Modern Family.
The Daily Show.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
This is what happens when you don't come to rehearsal.
Damian Lewis.
Aaron Paul. You know, we're in a room full of people just chasing our dreams. And so thank you, Hollywood, for allowing me to be a part of your group.
Lucy Hood.
Deborah Bothan, delighted to be here and delighted to be joining Verge.
Thank you so much for asking me to be part of this conversation. So we'll get to content in just a minute, but let's just follow up for a minute on Lucy, because I've had a chance to spend time with Lucy's roles probably over the last 10 years or so, and you heard what some of them were. I mean, I'd like to ask you a little bit about what connects all those, because from my point of view, what I've seen is whatever Lucy does has something to do with innovation, and she's always a big change agent. When you look at what you did at Fox, what you did at CTM, so I can hardly wait to see what you're going to do at the Academy. So for you, you're very strategic, so what links all of those different roles, and what do we see next?
I had a great time in over a decade at Fox and got to work with many of you here today, most notably building Fox Mobile, putting texting on American Idol, which was thought to be absolutely insane a decade ago. We then rolled out mobile video around the world in partnership with Vodafone and Verizon. After that, I joined USC's CTM, Institute for Communication Technology, because I had gotten a taste of thought leadership, thinking ahead of the curve, which is what CTM does so well, and you'll hear about later today. I have to admit, the Television Academy called me. I have been a member for 20 years. Is anyone here a member of the Television Academy? I've met a few, yeah, okay. Basically, you're asked to join if you oversee creative work in television. And there are 20,000 Television Academy members, all of whom vote on giving out those Emmys that you just saw. Now, how is that relevant, someone might say? We'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. But let's say that creative content and people's passionate attachment to it, I believe, is more relevant today than ever.
Thanks, Lucy. You know, the last 2 times I've seen you, you've been surrounded by tall gold people and small gold people. At the Academy last week, I love meeting you there because of all the great statuary around the Academy. And then, of course, we had a chance to spend some time at the Emmys. So the Emmys, what is it besides those statues and the chance to get all dressed up? It's been around since, what, 1946, sort of the beginning of television? Tell us a little bit about why is that relevant today? We hear a lot about the the death of television or the dramatic disruption of television, and yet you made a choice as an innovator and a change agent to move to the Academy. So that tells me something maybe that I hadn't thought about.
I believe we're in a new golden age of television. We're watching shows like Mad Men, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, and Modern Family. And I just this morning, having coffee, I spoke with two of you who are in from Switzerland and London. Each of you had shows you loved, you couldn't wait to see again, and that tells you that this is not just a US, but a global phenomenon where people are passionately attached to great content and great TV. I joined the TV Academy because some people do think that, yes, it's a bunch of people in evening gowns giving out gold statuettes to others in Hollywood. Yes, that's true, but at its heart, the Television Academy honors the greatest content in the world. We are in a new golden age of television. How many of you have binged lately? Watching, yes, I'm seeing a lot of hands here, even though you haven't had that much coffee. We all do it. 60% of Americans are binging on television, watching episode after episode, and that's a passionate connection. As you know, the Academy has opened its doors, and Netflix won several Emmys, as well as YouTube, which won its first Emmy for short-form program content. So that tells you how our world is changing.
Thanks, Lucy. So Carla opened with some of the big trends and some of the big changes that are happening around content and the entertainment ecosystem in general. You know, you and I talk about this all the time, and we have a long list of big disruptive changes that we've discussed. Can we start with what you think to be, say, the top 3 disruptive, or just top 3 changes to entertainment and media, maybe specifically to television?
Sure. First of all, where does great content come from? You may watch it on your television, you may be getting Netflix, watching Hulu, it may be cable, satellite. There's a complete diversity of ways for you to get your content. So that's number 1. New platform, new delivery methods. Number 2 is then, how do I find that content? The traditional mechanisms don't work the way they do. A network's fall launch isn't something that 20-year-olds rally around. 20-year-olds are rallying around Orange is the New Black on Netflix, all of whose episodes were released in one day. And a lot of people watched them that weekend. So it's a different ecosystem, a different delivery mechanism, but again, passionate connection to great content is something that speaks to, yes, we use our devices to get it, but it's our desires that move us. Nobody picks up their smartphone and says, hey, I'm going to watch my smartphone today. They say, I'm going to watch Game of Thrones. And that's the big difference.
Thanks, Lucy. So you mentioned desire, technology, change. As you know, at PwC, we're constantly doing consumer research around behaviors and connecting to entertainment, media, and television usage. And recently, and I'll talk a little bit more in a few minutes about some of the findings there, but the one thing that kind of shocked me was the fact that when we asked consumers, how do you discover? Because you referenced that it's one of our biggest challenges. I thought they'd all say because of their friend recommendations. Only 6% said that they watch content based on recommendations that they get. And over 60% said that they identified the content they wanted to watch because of an algorithm. So can you comment on that? I mean, that seems a bit of a dichotomy, or it was just unexpected that to get that response. What's all that about?
Well, I think it's really interesting because it speaks to the intersection of the human and technology. And the fact is, we're all human when we're being entertained. We don't do it because we have to, because it's a quantitative need. We do it because it's a human desire to enjoy, to connect, to see something beyond ourselves. I'll use an example from my own home. I walked in the other day on the weekend and said to my husband and son, "Are you watching football?" And they said, "No, we're watching Project Runway from the DVR." And I think that's the kind of thing that we
Their
each...
friends didn't recommend.
Yeah, I don't think my son is telling his high school friends that he's watching that with his dad, but Netflix knows. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? That's where technology gets you to your innermost desires. And if we, and I say this to this audience of extraordinary agencies, brands, and connectors, if we can figure out how to make that connection better, we're solving the trillion-dollar questions.
So you mentioned some new methods of distribution and some new Emmys. I'd like to take that a little bit further. One, with all of the change in digital distribution and new channels and new timing of release, are there new ways to get talent into the Emmy process? Is it going to be, because in some respects, it feels like it's getting harder and harder because of the expense of television on one side. And then on the other side, with digital, it's less expensive and it's easier to get in front of the camera. So which one of those is going to be the driving force of change? And will we see more unknowns achieving Emmy status because of this change?
I think you'll see both. I think what you saw this past Emmy season, everyone knows that House of Cards on Netflix was nominated for 9 Emmys. They won several. And when you see artists like Kevin Spacey and Robin Wright and the director David Fincher, who actually won an Emmy for directing, working in television, talking about the creative possibilities of producing 20 or 30 episodes instead of a 2-hour movie, you're seeing a sea change in top-level creative content. That is the stuff that plays around the world and that has that power and has that resonance. Yet on the other end of the spectrum, you've got the project that YouTube won its first Emmy for. And that is something, I don't know if anyone here's seen it, but it's a wonderful little program called The Lizzie Bennet Diaries. What it is, if you love Jane Austen, it's a 21st century version with a 20-year-old girl who plays Lizzie Bennet. Lizzie Bennet is the heroine of Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen's most famous novel. So it's YouTube bringing you a modern take on Jane Austen in 5-minute segments that were delivered often via Facebook and Twitter. Both of these projects won Emmys. House of Cards, 1-hour episodes, totally traditional, except that it was delivered by Netflix. And then the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, 5 minutes delivered in completely untraditional means. Inexpensively, I would say. I met several of the young actors from Lizzie Bennet Diaries, who of course had never heard of the TV Academy until they got their Emmy. And they were awed. They said, you've seen our show? We can't believe it. I guess they didn't think anybody my age would be watching this show. But it's pretty great. And so you're seeing wonderful creativity at both ends of the spectrum, at the very high end, high expense, and at the other end as well.
Well, probably true and very politically correct. So a related comment, I know we've seen an awful lot about, probably many people in this room have an interest in whether we will end up being bundled or unbundled as the months and years go on. And the same research that we completed recently says that two things that I think are interesting. One, people are watching more television, consuming more video than ever, so that puts down some of the concerns we hear rumbling around. And that over 70% of the consumers, based on over 1,000 people surveyed, said, I would much prefer to select my own bundle. I'd much prefer unbundling. Now, where does this connect with you and what you're doing? If now, often when you're surfing or often when you have a cable package, you might come across a show that you never would have normally selected, correct? So what happens if we do go to the unbundled world and people don't know about those shows? Does this change the future landscape of quality programming being identified for an Emmy?
I think that's a great point, because consumers are really looking at how they get their content, what they pay for it. And many of you in the audience are operating at different ends and intersections of that spectrum. But what it does speak to is, and I suspect at the last Verge I spoke at, we were probably debating whether content is king. Well, content is king, but delivery and discovery are czar. So it's our challenge to both deliver to consumers the stuff that they want, but to help them find it. Because I think we've all struggled with having missed an episode, trying to figure out where episode 3 of something is, how can I watch this new show? It's pretty hard to find. So again, that's an equation that we, across this ecosystem, really have to figure out to solve. Because at those intersections and connections is the most powerful intersection and probably the most monetizable intersection as well.
So we've talked about some of the big trends. What does that mean for people in this room? What are some of the impacts or to brands, to the cable companies, to healthcare, to chief marketing officers? What are some of the impacts of some of the things that you just shared with us on this room?
Well, discovery is number one. And that's an industry-wide challenge that we have to keep improving and perfecting. But think about it this way. 10, 15 years ago, Amazon didn't work terribly well either. If you wanted to buy something, it was quite a challenge. You went on eBay, you searched and searched. Your payment might go through or might not. And now you don't even question the reliability of an Amazon transaction. Probably most of you are members of Amazon Prime, which gets you everything you need and suggests a lot of things that you then buy. Think of how successful that ecosystem is. We need a similarly successful ecosystem for entertainment, where I just pop onto whatever device, it knows me. Lucy, you might like this. I can talk to it, whether by voice or by texting in a few words, and I get what I want. Once we've done that, we'll have a much more successful environment, and one where people, I believe, are open to a lot of advertising. I think agencies and brands have spent far too long apologizing for television advertising in the 30-second spot. The 30-second spot is a great thing. It can be fun, it can be entertaining. It's a lot more entertaining than internet banner ads, if you think about it. And it comes in an environment that's rich, that you've chosen, that you're watching. There are no technological issues when you watch television. You don't worry about whether it's buffering. Think about that. So we've got to perfect this ecosystem so that you all can connect your consumers with their passions. That's the point of power. And the better we can do with that, the more powerful we'll all be.
Thanks, Lucy. One of the other things that I think probably connects across your last three career moves is the movement towards connecting all those stakeholders, connecting directly with the customer, the end user of the content. And that also brings up the concept of, are we ever going to be able to actually really use the power of data and analytics to understand that customer? So what do you see in terms of the future of the Academy around awards that recognize excellence in discovery, recognize excellence in the use of data, recognize excellence in getting to that end user, the person that powers all the demand for the content?
Well, little known fact, we are the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. So you know about the Arts Awards, you know about Michael Douglas for Beyond the Candelabra, you know about Modern Family for Best Comedy, you know about Breaking Bad for Best Drama. What you don't know is that the Engineering Awards were held last night, where YouTube was again honored for its platform, which has improved dramatically in the last 10 years, and a bunch of other small technology companies were honored as well for their contribution to the science of delivering great content. One thing that attracted me to the Academy is the extraordinary partnerships that we have. We have partners like Samsung, CitiCard, we're talking to Verizon, we're talking to a wide variety of companies that want to connect at that critical moment of passion. There's something about handing out that statuette and how we capture that and how we celebrate that that makes for a very powerful intersection. Now, we're doing that in a small way, and I know you all are playing in the media environment at large and looking to do that in larger and larger ways with television and Portal and other partnerships. But I'd suggest this: be innovative. Go straight to the source. Where's that moment of passion? Where's it's happening? If you find that intersection, dive in, because that's where your consumers are. That's where they care. That's where they'll come back. And if you can capture them there, it's a powerful position.
Just following on that, it strikes me from talking to you off the stage and today that collaboration between all of these different groups that used to go to market separately, or produce and deliver a film separately, or produce television and work with a third party to deliver. Is collaboration, are we done talking about it and we're actually going to be forced, or we're going to have to collaborate to be successful in the future around getting to the consumer, around delivering content?
Absolutely. It's not, we all know that the broadcast model doesn't exist per se anymore. You can't just sort of transmit a program out and everyone will see it. You don't know who they are. That doesn't make sense in today's world. You need the analytics, you need to know why, what else are their passions, what are their loves and hates. So if you don't have that combination of Silicon Valley, top entertainment analytics, and the content that the people care about, you're nowhere.
So I know we're going to open it up for a couple of questions, but is there anything you can tell us about the future of the Academy, things that you plan on doing? I don't want any super secrets, but a super secret.
We are looking at two things that will be powerful for your audiences. One is, how do we honor the traditional creators in this new golden age of television? There are more and more wonderful series. We're actually exploring what are better and more ways to celebrate and empower these great creators. We have about 50 events a year after you see the Emmys. Then there are the other 50 events, stuff like Sons of Anarchy. We had Jennifer Aniston the other week celebrating director Jim Burrows. We've got Orange is the New Black next week. So we are always celebrating creativity in television. But at the same time, we're looking at more and more awards for second screen experiences, for short-form programming. So you're going to see a lot more of the new formats honored by the Television Academy. And I think that will help creative proliferation, where a few years ago it might have been seen as, oh, those digital media folks. Now it's mainstream. It's mainstream programming, it's mainstream content, and it will be honored as such.
So before we open it up for a couple of questions, is there anything else that you would really like to share with the audience? Completely blank slate. Anything you'd like to share, what you'd like to have them leave thinking about Lucy Hood or have them leave thinking about the Academy?
I would say go for the source. I worked at media companies for over 2 decades, and sometimes you can get a little too focused on the delivery, how it's being monetized, what's the rev split, et cetera. Go back, and that's what I've been able to do by joining the TV Academy. What are we doing here? How are we entertaining, moving, connecting with people? And then if we can figure out how to do that, not in a more complicated way, actually in a simpler way. You know, those guys who did drawings on cave paintings, they knew what was going on. They knew their audience, they knew their medium, etc. So the more that we can do that in our industry, the better off we'll be. So let's have fun with it.
Thanks, Lucy. We have time for 2 or 3 questions from the audience.
Thank you. It was very compelling the way things come together, and I didn't realize how much the Television Academy was pulling those things together. What kind of disruptions that are outside the realm of content make you worry in the back of your mind that in 5 years this could all be irrelevant?
Well, I'd say actually it's, there's not much, I think, that will disrupt great content, great stars, great entertainers getting to people. It may shift from company to company, from sector to sector, but people will find it. They have through history, and they certainly have in the last 10 years in our changing media environment. Any other questions?
One thing we didn't touch on, and I know comes up across our whole client portfolio, is what about delivery of content outside the U.S.? Because global content creation, global delivery is becoming more and more of an issue that companies have to deal with. How does that impact the future of television and what you're doing at the Academy?
I think it's a real challenge because in every country, people need a mix of their own language content, et cetera, and they're looking for the best in global content, which may be British, maybe American, maybe Chinese, maybe Korean. We haven't yet perfected. I was actually talking with several folks here about how do you get your content when you're in different countries, and they had clever stratagems. Well, we need to move beyond clever stratagems and deliver on a global basis. And that may be Sky B, it may be Love Film, it may be a variety of different distributors, but it should be seamless. Wherever I go, I can get what I want to see. So that's a challenge for all of us.
If there are no more questions, thank you very much, Lucy.